Now, some breaking news we're getting from our US partner, NBC News, and it is that the wrestling legend Hulk Hogan has died. He was 71 years old and died of a suspected cardiac arrest at his home in Florida. Hulk Hogan, a very famous name in wrestling and in world wrestling entertainment, WWE, transformed in many ways wrestling from a kind of niche sport into a major family entertainment. And he was very well known for his theatrics and was in so many ways a big personality. Let's cross live to Washington and our US correspondent, David Blevins. And, well, Hulk Hogan, a real wrestling legend.
Yes, indeed. Hulk Hogan had been unwell, we understand, for some weeks, Mark. He underwent major heart surgery back in June, we understand. The emergency services were called to his home at Clearwater, Florida this morning, where he is indeed reported to have died as a result of cardiac arrest. Terry Gene Bollea, as he was born in the state of Georgia, reinvented himself really as Hulk Hogan and became an American icon, personifying that larger-than-life patriotic hero during the Reagan years. He made his name, of course, as a professional wrestler, began his career in 1977, but gained worldwide recognition, really, from 1983 after signing with what was then the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, now Worldwide Wrestling Entertainment. In fact, he was 5 times WWE champion. His 1,474-day reign as champion, the longest in that organization's history. He also holds American television records for wrestling. A staggering 33 million viewers watched one of his fights and remained until the time of his death a brand ambassador for WWE World Wrestling Entertainment. In 1993, he gave up wrestling to pursue a career in film and television. You may remember he had quite the acting career, starring in Rocky III, in No Holds Barred, Suburban Commando, and Mr. Nanny. And some of his television shows included Hogan Knows Best and Hulk Hogan's Main Event. There were several attempts to make a wrestling comeback, none of them particularly successful, and then a departure of sorts, I suppose, into politics, because you may remember that he very famously endorsed the Republican candidate Donald Trump for the White House, famously ripping his shirt from his chest at last year's Republican National Convention. So I am sure we will hear some words of tribute from the US president in due course. But our colleagues at NBC have now confirmed the very sad news that Hulk Hogan, a wrestling legend, an American icon, a man who really represented all things patriotic about this nation, has died at the age of 71.
Just looking here at the newswires and saying that he was inducted into the Hall of Fame, WWE Hall of Fame, in 2005 by Sylvester Stallone. And as you say, he transformed wrestling in many ways, turned it into a real sort of cultural powerhouse, I guess, thanks to cable TV in the United States. And then, as you say, there was this fascinating relationship at the end with Donald Trump, where he used to appear at so many of his rallies.
Yes, and we've often reflected on how when Donald Trump talks about America returning to a golden era, it really is an attempt to turn back the clock to those days of the 80s and 90s, those Reagan years, really, when there was so much emphasis on American heroism, on patriotic stances. And that's why I suppose Hulk Hogan was the most best suited candidate to step into the role of being a representative of that era, and it would explain why Donald Trump and his campaign frequently invited Hulk Hogan to appear at his campaign rallies, why he stepped onto the stage last year at the Republican National Convention when Donald Trump, just a few days after he himself had survived that assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania, was officially endorsed as the Republican candidate at the beginning of his journey back to that remarkable comeback of his own into the White House. He was very, very glad to have the endorsement of a man who had been able to capture television audiences both in the ring and in movies and through his own television shows for many years. And he will be greatly saddened, I'm sure, by this news. We haven't heard anything from the White House at this stage, but in due course, I'm sure we will, because some would quite rightly argue that Hulk Hogan was able to bring his supporters on board behind Donald Trump as he ran for the White House, because he himself had established his presence as an American icon, as a symbol of patriotism right through the 80s, 90s, noughties, until the time of his death.
OK, David, thank you very much indeed. And WWE has just been tweeting confirmation of this, saying WWE is saddened to learn that the Hall of Famer Hulk Hogan has passed away, one of pop culture's most recognisable figures. Hogan helped WWE achieve global recognition in the 1980s. WWE sends its condolences to Hogan's family, friends, and fans. And yeah, David, so confirmation clearly from WWE, and he was, well, they say it, one of pop culture's most recognisable figures.
Yes, and it would be impossible, I think, to overstate the significance of the contribution he made to wrestling. Of course, it has always been something that was followed in each individual state across America, but he, I suppose, to some extent, put it on the world map. He began his career back in 1977, but gained that worldwide recognition in 1983 when he signed for the World Wrestling Federation, which went on to become the WWE, World Wrestling Entertainment. No one else managed to achieve the record he had, nearly 1,500 days reigning as the champion of WWE, 5 times World Wrestling Entertainment champion, and bringing in a staggering television audience of 33 million for one of his fights. So you can see, when he was able to attract that kind of a television audience, why he then was able to make the move he did into movies, into television, and subsequently, to some extent, into politics, and why politicians like Donald Trump, who's always very keen to have a television audience, we know how often he likes to hold court, so to speak, in front of the television cameras, would be willing to bring someone like Hulk Hogan on board to endorse his campaign and to bring his legion of supporters into the Make America Great campaign that Donald Trump was leading in the run-up to the last election. It's been quite the journey, really, for a man who was born into a very humble background in the state of Georgia, to make his way through the ranks of wrestling, through the ranks of entertainment, to become not just an American but a worldwide global icon, and to then become someone who was able to endorse Donald Trump to the extent that some would credit him with playing a significant part in the president's return to the White House last November.
Yeah, and I guess testament to his, well, his sort of global recognition factor that Donald Trump did, invite him to all those rallies.
Yes, I think, Mark, it's worth reflecting on the fact that it's not just the fact that he had that wrestling career, he had the acting career, he had the television presentation career, but it's also his rather striking image, that blonde moustache that was unmistakable whenever he appeared anywhere, even in his dark glasses, even if he was wearing a baseball cap. He was unmistakably Hulk Hogan, recognised not just right across America, but right across the world. And Donald Trump is a man who's very much about image, how things are seen, how things play out. And so you can see why these two became friends, why he became such a champion of Donald Trump, and why his endorsement mattered so much to the president in the run-up to last year's election. But ultimately, when we cut through all the politics and all through the entertainment, I think it is the wrestling that he will be most remembered for, because he is a man who really put wrestling on the world stage, bringing in vast television audiences at home and abroad. And it is very sad news for his fans that Hulk Hogan has left us at the age of 71.
And as I say, transforming wrestling in this combination with the sort of growth of cable TV, the formation of WWE, and this transformation of wrestling from this well, relatively niche sport into this sort of global family entertainment.
Yeah, multi-million-dollar sport it became as a result of people like Hulk Hogan becoming involved. It all being about the ability to wrestle in the ring, but also about the imagery around it and all the glitz and glamour around it. It became very much about how people appeared, how they were able to attract audiences, and there is no question whatsoever about Hulk Hogan's ability to do that. It is staggering, really, that he holds that television record to this day when you consider how the entertainment business and how broadcasting has changed. 33 million viewers watching one wrestling match. That is just incomprehensible for those of us who spend our time looking at television audiences these days. So he absolutely put this small-time sport from across the US states onto the national stage and onto a global stage, and became an icon, as I say, not just here in the United States, but across the world too, with his trademark, a blonde moustache and long blonde hair, and his stunts, not least that decision to rip his shirt off his own chest at last year's Republican National Convention as an act of heroism, an act of patriotism, demonstrating strength just days after Donald Trump himself had survived an assassination attempt. And he did that at the Republican National Convention in his determination to endorse Trump for his run for the White House. And there are many across the United States and elsewhere who would credit Hulk Hogan with having played some significant part in returning Donald Trump to the White House.
David, thank you very much indeed. Wrestling star Ric Flair on X. I'm absolutely shocked to hear about the passing of my close friend, Hulk Hogan. Hulk has been by my side since we started in the wrestling business, an incredible athlete, talent, friend and father. Our friendship has meant the world to me. He was always there for me, even when I didn't ask for him to be. He was one of the first to visit me when I was in hospital with a 2% chance of living, and he prayed by my bedside. And Hulkster, no one will ever compare to you. Rest in peace, my friend. Well, I'm joined now by Gareth Thompson, founder of Wrestling Church and Hulk Hogan superfan. And thank you very much for being with us. And, well, the death of a legend.
Yeah, I mean, Hulk Hogan was one of the greatest professional wrestlers to have ever lived. And he, as you mentioned, took what was a small territory in New York and took it into a national and global stage. And he has been, when people think of wrestling, the first name that comes up is Hulk Hogan. You know, this is very, very sad for those who are fans of his. But for the wrestling community as a whole, he is a pillar. He is one of those Mount Rushmore guys. And yeah, it's very, very sad to hear of his passing today.
And so what was his appeal? Why did he play such a big part in the transformation of wrestling, do you think?
I think it was his ability to transcend the sport. He was able to go into movie theaters and people would know who he was. He had a starring role in Rocky III as Thunder Lips before he actually became famous within the WWF at the time, now the WWE. So he knew what it meant to be a multi-platform star. He had that appeal. He was larger than life, the 24-inch pythons. And he was one of those guys that not only could wrestle in the ring, but he could talk people into arenas. And so you could put him on a chat show, you could put him on a morning news program, and he would be able to talk the talk, and people would pay tickets to see him. He really was a star, a mega star, bigger than what the WWF could have ever imagined at the time.
Yeah, and I mean, he then, as David Blevins was just saying, and I saw him a number of times in the States attending these Trump rallies. What was that all about?
I think that Hulk Hogan, he has his political views. I think that he aligned himself with Trump. His entrance music was real American. He was a patriot, you would say. He really cared about the American people. You were always wearing red, white, and blue. So he was known for that. And I think him putting himself to Donald Trump was his way of putting his platform and his star power behind someone that he believed in. You know, I would say that regardless of your politics, any star of Hulk Hogan's magnitude putting their name to a candidate or even a presidency is immense. But Hogan was doing what he felt was right for him at the time. You know, I think that's fantastic for him. And obviously Trump has his own history with professional wrestling, having been in the ring himself a few times and been involved in WWE. So, yeah, they were kind of a bit of a match made in heaven, them two together.
Gareth Thompson, appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And just to recap, Hulk Hogan, the wrestling legend, has died at the age of 71.